He swore, La nikah, la nikah, la nikah, bidun wali. There is no marriage without a wali. So you should have that relationship, and you should respect your father as someone who represents you. And you should tell him your feelings and what you feel and what you're looking for in a man. And he should know as well. So now it comes, that is of course, the ultimate way would be that those parents got together and they found. Now, what about the concept of marrying because, oh, this is my village and these are people from my village, and so therefore we will marry them. And nobody cared about religious practice or compatibility according to the Sharia. This is a culture that's unacceptable. This culture, we have to get rid of it. We have to bring a culture where we're bringing people together in order to make them a suitable companion to each other. That way, inshallah ta'ala, they will flourish and grow and nurture that relationship and raise kids who will have a sound psychology. So now it comes, people are saying, well, what about the internet? And you have these websites, and you can go on the matrimonials and things like that. You talk to your local mashayikh about that, and they will tell you what is best. I'm not here to pick a fight. Now, what I really wanted to talk about today is the relationship between the husband and the wife. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says very clearly, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. This is the ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes what is the whole reality of marriage. Indeed, it is a fact that from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has created a male and a female, and they're from one race, human race, and they were meant to come together to become azwaj. Azwaj is zawj, to make two one thing, to pair something. And so then he says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. In Arabic, as-sukna or as-sukun has more the basic literal meaning that might come is just to live with them. But if you look in the tafsir of our ulama, you will find that they're talking about sukna, to have peace with them, to be tranquil, to have. And what is the key? When you look at tafsir, you want to see what's behind the tafsir and what the effect of the tafsir of the Holy Quran is. You will find that this sukna has to be before it understanding. There has to be an understanding. If a husband and a wife are going to succeed, they have to have an open channel of communication with all due respect to cultures and so forth. I was studying with one of my mashayikh in Egypt, one of the young brothers that was teaching the higher levels of Arabic, and we were talking and I was telling him something about what I expect and so forth, and what I hope in marriage, because at that time I wasn't married. And he was telling me, subhanallah, my father and mother, I don't know if they talk at all. Baba goes out and works all day and comes home, he expects the food ready, and there is no relationship. And he was telling me, I know from many friends that almost all you know of the relationship is fighting or talking in a harsh, rude manner. That is not sukna. This is against the well-known ayah of the Holy Quran. And so, the first characteristic between a sound marriage, according to the way Allah has legislated, is a good common understanding and a compromise. Brothers and sisters, marriage is two different people. I don't care how compatible they are, you must compromise in order to succeed. If you're not willing to compromise from both sides, we will talk about it. We will talk about it. The chauvinistic culture that has overcome Muslims and this oppressive, overbearing, domineering, authoritative force that men think they have, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. So we will see who is really the qa'id al-usra as we look at the other ayats. So then the next characteristic between the husband and the wife, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. And He has made mawadda and rahmah as He's decreed that as the two founding characteristics of a sound marriage. So when you look at mawadda is not just love. Hubb is love. That's what hubb is here. So I love something, I love it. Mawadda is another level. This is a deep affection a deep affection and yearning to make sure that nothing would come between you and that mawdood, that thing that is deeply beloved to you. And so this affection is an active process of strengthening and facilitating a strong bond that is not to be broken. So that goes back to the same thing. You cannot have everybody wants to be the way they are and nobody's willing to compromise if you're going to have this mawadda. No. The mawadda means I'm willing to sacrifice certain things. As long as I'm not sacrificing anything in my spirituality and my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is found in the Quran and Sunnah, then I am willing to give up these things to make my wife or my husband to be happy and that we have this strong relationship. The last characteristic is rahmah. Rahmah is basically this never-ending giving and loving and respecting and forgiving. The rahmah, it means whenever you have the opportunity to give some time or some effort in serving your husband or your wife, that you do it. And that is why Allah is Ar-Rahman. What is Ar-Rahman? He is the one who has done everything, surrounded us with His mercy and compassion and His benevolence and His bounties that we live around. Everything that surrounds us is His mercy and His compassion. Everything, سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He has subjugated the whole universe to our well-being. And that is Allah's rahmah. Similarly, as a husband and a wife, to have that rahmah is to do everything for the other to make them happy and comfortable and so forth. Finally, there will be disputes. Voices will get raised. There will be problems in the marriage, no doubt. It happened in the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is the best human being on the face of the earth in the history of mankind. Don't tell me with this naive utopian understanding that you're going to go into a marriage and think that everything will be hunky-dory, as we say. I don't know if you say that here. Yeah. I thought if I tried to be funny, it might not work in the British context. At least. So, this rahmah is to forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. Some people get upset quickly, and I call that hysterical. But worse than hysterical is historical. You did and remember and this and that. That cannot have any place in a sound marriage between a righteous Muslim husband and wife. You cannot have that. So forgiving and forgetting. So now we see these are the basic elements of the sound marriage of the husband and the wife. Now we have to look at the structure of the marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the men, they have the responsibility, not the authoritative, dictatorial, overwhelming power. They have the responsibility of being in charge of and taking care of their wives. And according to the majority of the mufassirin, this ayah is generally talking about in the family structure. It is not all men are dominating all women. No, because the marriage is an institution, it makes perfect sense. Our culture in the West says there's something wrong with this ayah. It says, no, men and women are perfectly equal in all facets of life and they should have an equal say-so. That has caused the destruction of many marriages. What it is just like we have, for example, a country, and there's a prime minister, or there's a president. Just like we have a business, and there's a CEO. Just like we have a school, and there's a headmaster. This is culture in the West. Everybody has admitted that when there's an institution, and there is giving and taking and responsibilities and decisions being made for everybody in that institution, there must be a leader. Otherwise you will have fitna. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if there were more than one God, the heavens and the earth would have been corrupted. That's the basic nature of what we see in America. A lot of these divorces are because everybody's wanting to have the equal authority. So the man has an authority, but he has a responsibility. And his responsibility, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And live with your wives with ma'roof, with what is good, with what is righteous, with what is kind, which is what is fair. Prophet ﷺ says, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرٌ لِنِسَائِهِمْ. The best of you is the best of you to your wives. So a man in his humility and in earning his respect and his authority is constantly giving and forgiving and overlooking and showing a good example. And by the way, psychology the scholars that are dealing with this new science have said that when somebody's willing to admit a mistake, by the way, in most Eastern cultures that is impossible for a man or even a woman to admit their mistake. In Islam, this is the crux of establishing yourself as a humble little ant on the face of the earth in Allah's beautiful kingdom. This is what we need to do if we're really going to establish a relationship with Allah first and foremost, and with humanity secondly, is that we're willing to own up to our shortcomings and mistakes and faults. So the psychologist said that true leaders, and in raising leaders, and in gaining the respect of those who are in your authority, if you're willing to own up to your mistakes, you will gain that respect. So a lot of times we see men are trying to nurture their authority by fear with their kids, and with, even you see, subhanAllah, Mashaykh doing this about teaching kids Quran. He's trying to fear him into doing it. This has nothing to do with the rahmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. This is usul al-qasr in Arabic. When you say وَمَا and then you say إِلَّا, whatever it is, it means this reality is basically founded on one main point, which comes after illa. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam being sent was all about having rahmah for all of mankind and everything on the earth. So this is something we should have with our husbands and our wives and our children in our lives. If we have that, then we have found this truth and this understanding that marriage is built upon. So you have this relationship, and you have this rahmah, and you have this mawadda, and you have this sukna. Now whenever you're living your life, you're going to have, definitely there are going to come issues. And so now you have this whole dilemma and debate about what does it mean in these parts of the ayah after it says that the man has been given this responsibility to maintain and be an authority over his wife, because Allah has given him, He has preferred that role for the men, for a wisdom that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Some of these mashayikh said men are better than women, and that's why, like Ibn Kathir, and أنا أختلف معهم ولو كانوا أعلم مني. I think that what that means is just Allah gave, I can know for a fact, I am not capable of having a child, and I'm not capable of raising a child from little children. When my wife says, I'm going to go to the halaqah or something, watch the kids, and I just have a couple of kids, I want to pull my hair out. I can't handle it. She is superior to me in this aspect, no doubt about it. And I challenge any of you brothers that say, oh, you just sit at home with the 4 kids and I have to go work. Okay, send her to work one day, watch how she efficiently takes care of business, and watch how you go crazy at home all day. I promise you this. Because she was preferred for that. That's why she was created for. And so everybody has their roles to play in this life, and everyone is equal as ibadullah in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We just have different responsibilities and roles to play as ibadullah. So once we have that relationship and we have that understanding, then it will come times. The man is supposed to be a leader. Some of the Christians, they asked me, what does it say in the Quran about Adam and Hawa, about Adam and Eve? And I say, well, actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blames Adam. فَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ فَغَوَى. Allah never blamed Eve in the Quran. He never blamed her. The Bible made Eve out to be this deceiving temptress and all of this. And she's the source of all evil, and so therefore, all of the problems that happened to her is because of her great-grandmother and Eve and what she did. Whereas the Quran gave the responsibility to Adam, in the only ayah that gives blame to one, it's done now. Why is that? Because he's supposed to be a leader. He's supposed to give tarbiyah to his wife. He's supposed to be a person of example of ta'atullah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in obedience to Allah and in following the message that He has revealed. And so when the wife or the kids mess up, if he has done his job correctly, then he's not responsible. But if he has not, he is responsible. So as Muslims, we have to be responsible with our wives, and we have to nurture an environment in which we both understand each other's roles and we play them correctly. Now say, la qadar Allah, that some sister, became what you call nushuz. Now when you have this, when khiftum nushuzahunna, وَلَاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and from the women who you see nushuz from them. The question is, what is nushuz? Is nushuz because she talked back to you, she said, I'm not going to do that or whatever? According to the majority of the fuqaha, this is not nushuz. Nushuz is when somebody is leaving the house and not telling anybody where they're at, talking to strange men, completely all day, every day, acting like they don't have any responsibility to obey or listen to her husband and so forth. Nushuz is a very, very serious crime. It's not just a disagreement and an argument and I get upset and so now I take these steps. No. The idha. How is the idha? The idha should be according to the Quran and the Sunnah. The idha is not according to some culture. According to the idha, the preaching and the kind explanation of why someone is telling their wife and reprimanding them, they should do it with gentleness and kindness and love and mercy. And so when that happens, then inshallah ta'ala, the sister, she realizes, she comes to her senses and she follows the deen. Now say for example, the sister, for some strange reason, she keeps pressing with these very bad character flaws and defects and is doing these things in obstinate rebellion. So then the husband, if it's right in a row, not a week ago, she didn't tell me where she was going, or she let so-and-so in the house and didn't call me, or whatever the major infraction was, then she did something now. This is not what you call the next step. You keep doing the idha in this. And inshallah ta'ala, we all are khatta. We all make mistakes. For any man to take his wife and say that, nitpicking on her and try to make her out to be, look at your own self first before you start blaming and judging others. And so this comes back to seeing this role of responsibility and authority as a humble understanding, rather than some key to authoritarian dictatorship on the family. And so then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if it is that she continues, then you can وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. You can turn your back. Some scholars said it means that you don't seek her in a sexual manner. Others said generally you are just, it's a big kinaya that is saying that you just generally do not talk to her, you don't show interest in her at all. Allah knows best, but the concept is that a woman needs to be cared for and nurtured. She likes to be desired. She likes to have someone socially interacting with her. And the husband is the main person that should be doing that. And so when you did that, she should think, he must be very upset with me. And so then, alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, she comes to an understanding and she is now back to her Islamic self and she leaves such a character flaw and defect. Now, then the big controversy is وَضْرِبُهُنَّ, right? So many of the non-Muslims, they say this is my only reason why I don't believe in the Quran that I've met and they read the Quran. Because it says to hit women. If you look at the tafsir, it does not say to hit women. When you say the word wadrib, this could be darb. I could give you darbun amthal. But according to the Prophet, he said darbun ghayru mubarrah, which does mean some sort of physical reprimand like this. Stand up, bro. Listen to me. This is not under any circumstances to be understood. Hitting in the face or hitting it. Listen. Come on, man, what is this? This is what we're talking about. You're gonna get upset. This وَضْرِبُهُنَّ could never be in a fit of rage, because no human being is going to control himself. If you get angry and you can control yourself and you want that, now you have an issue of culture. You have an issue of culture. In the time the Quran was revealed, the mentality of women was she would take grave seriousness from the fact that her husband has now grabbed her arm or flicked her on her, side or on her leg or something like that. She would take that, astaghfirullah, now I'm out of place. Nowadays, which it shouldn't be that way, but the reality, we have to deal with waqi'. As people who understand the Quran, we can't say, the way it always was is the way it always will be. Al-fatwa yataghayyar hasb al-zaman wal-makan wal-dhuruf. The Islamic application of detailed ijtihadat is always going to change based upon time and place and circumstances. That's a fact that our ulama have pretty much by consensus have established, except for maybe Ibn Hazm or some literalists and folks. But the general Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is saying this. So now you know that if you grab your wife's arm, she's going to grab your arm. Is this application of this ayah a smart thing? Because they say you have dar al-mafasid wa jalb al-masalih. So they say dar al-mafasid muqaddam ala jalb al-masalih. So the concept of preventing harm and more problems and difficulty is established principle of Islamic fiqh. So you would be foolish for saying, this is the ayah and I'm establishing it. You're not being wise in establishing that ayah. You establish the ayah when that ayah is going to fit. right? We're not canceling or making naskh based upon culture. We're talking about individual cases and individual people, okay? This is something that inshallah ta'ala I hope we understand. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah aliyan kabira. Who here knows why, after giving this responsibility of the husband to reprimand his wife, he says Allah is exalted and large? Why would he call himself that after that? To let you know, brother, that the real leader and the real authority in this house is Allah Azza wa Jal. So don't step over your bounds. Allah is the ruling authority. And if a sister comes to you with an ayah and hadith, and you're supposed to be the leader, you should be the one who accepts that and says, Astaghfirullah, I was out of line, I was yelling and screaming, I got violent, this is a big sin, this is not right, or whatever it may be that you may have been doing. So, in summary, I hope we understand that this is a big barakah. It is the basic nucleus of a sound society, that you have a husband and a wife that are relating to each other based upon the Holy Quran and the Holy Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. When you have that relationship, it is based upon sukna, having a peace and tranquility which is based upon a correct understanding and an ability to compromise and come to a rahmah that is interchanging, that is based upon a deep love and affection, and that everybody understands their roles. There is shura. There is shura in all factions of a Muslim's life. وَأَمْرُهُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ شُورًا وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورًا بَيْنَهُمْ. That the consultation is a fact of reality between believers. So a man, he should be taking his wife's advice, and he should be listening to even his children's advice. But sisters, when the brother, and it will come, married or unmarried, you will either know or come to know that he will make decisions that you don't agree with. You have to accept it. You have to humbly accept it and give in that is the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. Otherwise, this is where the fitna will come. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, من صلت خمسها وصامت شهرها وأطاعت زوجها دخلت الجنة من أي باب شاءت. Whoever prays her 5 prayers and fasts her month and obeys her husband, she's going to enter Jannah from any of these 8 gates that she likes. Subhanallah. This is a huge, huge facilitation that the woman doesn't have the responsibility in her neck. كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ فَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, every one of you is like a shepherd responsible for their flock. You are a guardian. فَالرَّجُلُ رَاعٍ فِي أَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْهُمْ. The man is responsible for his people in his house, for their world, for their spirit, and for their progress in both. And so he should offer an environment in which they can all grow and they can all flourish in this environment together. And so he's responsible for offering that environment. If they don't listen after that, or they don't come out the way we all like, that is between them and Allah. Everybody individual is كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَ. Everybody is in their own responsibility and in control of their own fate in terms of choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mashiyah and qadr is above everything as well. But then it says, فَالْمَرْأَةُ رَاعِيَةٌ فِي بَيْتِ بَعْلِهَا وَوَلَدِهِ وَهِيَ مَسْئُولَةٌ عَنْهُمْ. That a woman is responsible for her husband's children and his house. And she is responsible, and she will be asked on the Day of Judgment how she did that. So the children, what that means is giving them care and love and being the primary source of love and compassion and learning and teaching and all of these things that they require. And then the house, it needs to be preserved. Now some people, some ulama, they took wujub, the obligation for cleaning and cooking and all of these things. But I lean towards, and you can talk to the local mashayikh, whatever they view, but I lean towards the fact that what this is actually talking about, if you look at the nas, it is talking about protecting the house from unwanted intruders or major disorganization and things like that. But the Prophet ﷺ كان في مهنة أهله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He used to cook, he used to clean, he used to sew up his clothes and fix his shoes. That was Rasulullah ﷺ. Cultures nowadays, Muslim cultures, say no, the man has no place doing any of this stuff. Who is that? لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. Forget the culture. We need to have Islam regulating the culture from above, not the other way. And then telling people that you must do this and you must do that. مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ. This speech. Allah has not revealed it. This is something that has come from the nafs The nafs al-bashariyah that we were told to train and purify. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us all in our journey of purifying our hearts and souls and our deeds and our actions and our knowledge. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather between all of the husbands and wives in this room and the future husbands and wives in good and barakah and blessings. And that inshallah ta'ala we can all gather on the day of judgment and enter Jannah together and in infinity of bliss. Jazakumullah khair.
Some excellent advice there for all the husbands and wives here. I'm sure we're all in need of that advice. Jazakallah for that. Okay, Shaykh Nimi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأكمل التسليم على سيدنا مولانا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. The honorable brothers of Allah bless them have assigned me to talk about love for humanity. So, on that happy note, moving from one aspect to another, let me take you to one simple ayah in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we'll try to talk about it in a short time, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. And those who believe, it's a portion of an ayah, those who believe have stronger love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very difficult, obviously, to talk about love in such a short time, and especially the word love has been widely abused. Used and abused. What does love mean? What love is? What's the definition of love? And you can go range from the old great philosophers talking about love to the very recent people talking what love is.